Nightmare on Elm Street. An 80s horror classic, yes. Given to us by horror legend Wes Craven. But of course, he did not get this fiction without its facts. I'm Dr. Peter Persil, and this is Real Horrors. You should also stay tuned for it. Hello there. I'm Dr. Peter Persil, as I've said already in the introduction. I'm a psychiatrist and neurosurgeon, and in my free time I like to explore history, particularly the real facts that shaped horror to how we know it today. So far we've gone through what gave us inspiration for classics such as Psycho and The Silence of the Lambs and Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Dracula even. In this one, I'm going to give you the real A Nightmare on Elm Street. So, A Nightmare on Elm Street. Written and directed by Wes Craven in 1984, the film was a huge success. Although Craven had no intention to do a sequel or make it a franchise, the film gave us 6 sequels, and as they went along they got more comedic and satire. And they even had one crossover movie with another slasher franchise, Friday the 13th, and even a remake in 2010. But of course, the franchise that Wes Craven created was not just a full work of fiction. Yes, Freddy Kruger, all the characters in it, Nancy Thompson, the final girl, and all the other characters, are all works of Craven's fiction, yes, but of course, they were inspired by truth. Real facts, which I have right here with me, that I have recorded. I've had patients like this in the past that have had sleep problems. So, it was 1972. There was a war going on, the Vietnam War. America finally dropped out of it after they knew they were not getting anywhere in fighting it. Many refugees had immigrated to different countries and escaped the horrors of that war. But of course, when some people, war veterans, refugees, returned home after this horrific war, they all suffered nightmares, as you do in a war. Post-traumatic stress disorder, of course. But what these people suffered was a condition that got the name SUNDS. SUNDS. Which was called SUNDS. Sudden Unexplained Nocturnal Death Syndrome. A condition where people have had nightmares and died in their sleep because of this. Not much is known about it, and not a lot is understood about it. But they believe that it's from someone having such a horrific nightmare, they die of fright in their sleep. There was a young boy, Vietnamese I believe, or some young boy that had this condition, and he stayed awake for weeks, fought it, staying awake, refusing to go to sleep because he was worried that if he had gone to sleep, he would die. His parents gave him sleeping pills, which he took, and of course, he did not go to sleep. Finally, after a couple of weeks and unable to keep fighting the urge to stay awake, he finally fell asleep. Parents being relieved, but then they hear a scream in the dead of night, and by the time they go to their son, he's dead. They found they found under his pillow sleeping pills, which he said he'd been taking, but he never did. They also found in his wardrobe a coffee-making machine. The young boy was staying awake from caffeine pills and coffee, fighting the urge to stay awake, which can only go so far, of course. This ordeal, of course, inspired Wes Craven to create the final girl of this film, Nancy Thompson, who pretty much does the same in this film, fights her urge to stay awake and not sleep. But of course, she eventually must. And you're thinking, was Freddy Kruger inspired by anything real? Of course, who can forget that antagonist of the franchise? A disfigured man with a hat, red striped green sweatshirt or jumper, and of course his iconic bladed glove. The bladed glove, I believe, was something Craven looked into. I don't know. I didn't really do much research on that part. But the inspiration for Freddy Kruger was inspired when Wes Craven was a young boy. When Wes Craven was a young boy, he stated this: "When I was a young boy, I woke in the middle of the night after hearing a noise outside his room in the trash can. There he saw a homeless man raiding in his bin. Now he got this man's attention, and when he looked, he wore a hat similar to what Freddy Krueger's wearing, and he had a burnt, disfigured face. Now this man apparently stayed outside his home across the road under a street lamp and did not leave, knowing Craven knew very well he was there. And Wes Craven was terrified from this, but never saw him again." Of course, this did inspire the iconic character we have today, Freddy Krueger, portrayed by the fantastic horror actor Robert Englund. He went on to play Freddy in all 7 films, including the crossover, but did not reprise the role in the remake, as they were retelling that story. And, of course, Craven dug into fiction, of course, and gave this film some fiction, such as Freddy being a child serial killer and a dream demon. In the year 1981, it was reported that 19 men and 1 woman died from this nightmarish ordeal. And in other years went by, 13 more people had suffered this terrible fate. Of course, this film, A Nightmare on Elm Street, like I say, is a full work of fiction, but it has been inspired by truth and reality. Of course, who would have thought that Craven could create such an infamous villain? I personally enjoy the film. Freddy Krueger is really something of nightmares. Now, the Vietnamese, the immigrants, believed that these nightmarish ordeals that they were experiencing were, of course, they believed from their ancestry that because they were leaving their homeland or abandoning their place of birth or whatever, they believed that there was a curse upon them, believing in actual demons that can come for you in your sleep, One demon, I believe, mentioned where he sits on your chest and crushes you to death. I thought to myself, more inspiration for Frederick Charles Kruger and his fiction there. So I guess all these folklores and demon tales inspired Freddy's abilities to manipulate people in their dream world, making them unable to defeat him. So yes, the real A Nightmare on Elm Street. As I said already, a work of fiction, but not without its facts. Well, I think I've covered all I need to say in this video. What do you think? The horrors of A Nightmare on Elm Street being inspired by truth. Does it terrify you knowing that there is a condition that can do this, called SUNDS? Sudden, what was it stood for now? I should probably have known this, because I said before I've researched this, as I have come across some patients like this. Yes, here we go. Sudden unexplained nocturnal death syndrome. Of course, this hasn't been the only case. There's a case that dates most recently from the year 2014, when a case happened with some people. So what do you think to this? Does it terrify you knowing that it's real? Do let us know. I have been Dr. Peter Persil, and this has been my real horrors. SUNDS, the real A Nightmare on Elm Street. Well, I think I covered all I needed to say. Goodbye for now, and don't have nightmares, of course.